if you have a problem with me, text me. And if you don't have my number, you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me. So I decided that I would wait until my birthday, which is June 1st. I said to myself, if I can do 6 months without alcohol, then I can prove to myself that I don't have a problem. And by the time I had got to June 1st, I was the happiest I've ever been in my life. I could sleep better. I could handle problems better. Things that would go wrong on set that would normally set me off, I could take in my stride. I had such better mental clarity. I felt healthier. I felt fitter.
Sure. The number one thing I hear is like, most people don't chase their dreams because they're scared of what their mates will say, let alone what the world will say. Yeah, like I guess, have you kind of figured out a little formula for it, or is it just natural because you saw your dad and it's become easier that way?
I think it's a little bit of both, really. You know, I think it's something you definitely get better at. I live by this really. I don't actually know if Christian Bale did say this, but I think he did.
Bale, so
I love Christian Bale.
Say he said it. Yeah,
we'll say
he said it. Yeah.
But I think the quote is, if you have a problem with me, text me. And if you don't have my number, you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me.
That is so good.
And I think that is such a great piece of advice, because as a celebrity, you live on this stage, you live out there, you kind of give out a version of yourself that you want people to see. Mm-hmm. And that can be the version of yourself that they can have a problem with or they can love. And there is I feel like I'm quite authentic in my public persona, but I just try to really care about what my family thinks, what my friends think, what the people in my local community think. I live in Kingston. I know everyone that lives there. I can't walk 5 feet without bumping into one of my mum's friends. So it's something I've been working on. I try my best to not let that stuff affect me. It does.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not cold-hearted or anything like that. It does affect me, but I just try to move on and focus on the positives.
Yeah. And was there ever a piece of feedback or a rumor or something you saw that did affect you, where you actually thought, well, or at least made you stop and go, God, I'm trying to see the positives, but this one's tough. Like this actually made me have to pause and figure it out?
Something that did really upset me, I was in New York, I was shooting the crowded room, and I was having a really hard time with the job just because of how taxing it was, the emotional capacity that I was having to get to every day. And I decided to delete my Instagram because I just felt like I was so addicted to this kind of false version of my life that it was just taking over. I would be on set working, I'd come and sit in my chair and just scroll. And it was becoming a problem. I was just obsessed with it, and I was obsessed to find out what people were saying and what they thought about me. So I decided to make an announcement, which unfortunately we have to do, and say that I'm taking a break from social media. And I try to position myself and say, like, I'm taking a break from social media because I feel like my mental health will benefit from it. And the thing that really upset me is the press ran with that, and they tried to make out that I was having this mental breakdown. And what upset me was, if I was having a mental breakdown, that's not for you to report on. They took the story in the wrong direction, and they painted again this negative light on mental health, rather than saying, oh, he's doing it. It's okay that he's doing it, so we should all feel okay to do it too. They were saying, oh, look, he's not the perfect happy-go-lucky kid you think he is. He's having a nervous breakdown in New York. And I think that was a really unfair line of journalism, let's say, because I just think it again kind of painted people looking for help in the wrong light, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like the message of our show is that asking for help should be something that we celebrate.
Yeah.
If you're struggling, if you need help, if you feel bad and you wake up and you go to a friend, a therapist, a teacher, an employee or a colleague and say, I'm really struggling, I need some help, that should be something that we give you a pat on the back. Like, I would love to help you. I'm delighted that you asked me. And that, for me, that announcement was kind of my olive branch, and the press ran with it how they ran with it. But to be fair, it kind of gave me a great drive to finish The Crowded Room in the way that we did. To, like, if you're not going to listen to my personal message, then you have to listen to the message of my show.
Yeah.
So it kind of went hand in hand.
I want to go back a little bit, because there's a lot of interviews that you've done, and I've watched a lot of stuff over the time, but like we were talking about, a lot of it's sound bites because it's quick and short, and like these entertainment, interviews. And that's why I was really grateful that you took out the time to do this. But you were diagnosed, as far as I read, with dyslexia at age 7.
Yes.
And I was wondering how you know, a lot of our community and our audience is diagnosed as well, or some of them are not, but they're finding out later on in life. How did that affect you, or how were you set up for success with that because as an actor, you've got to learn lines, you've got to read lines. There's a lot of activities that people would assume are quite challenging.
Sure.
But you found a way, and walk us through that a little bit.
I don't know. My mum has always been really hands-on with our education.
Mm-hmm.
She, you know, really wanted us to just do our best. Our dad always said, like, look, I don't care what grades you get. As long as you try your best, you try your best. And that's all that we can ask for.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my dyslexia, my spelling was really the biggest hurdle.
Yeah.
I worked really hard at school. I didn't do particularly well, but again, my parents said, as long as you try your best, then that's all we can ask for.
Yeah. And acting you started early too, age 9, right? Like that was something that you started pursuing really early on in life. And I feel, was that something that you were always sure about? There's that famous viral TikTok that always goes around of you, you know, I don't know how old you were, being asked, you know, what superhero would you play when you're older? And you say, oh, maybe Spider-Man, right?
Quite fancy being like a superhero.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. What kind of superhero would I want to play? Maybe Spider-Man in like 10 years' time.
How much of your acting career do you feel like you've manifested, or there was a vision or a focus, or is it more just like this was naturally what you were into and it grew? Where did that come from?
I do believe in manifesting, actually. I really do. I think what's interesting about my career is this was never something I wanted. I just was a young kid. I loved dancing. My mum would take me to a dance class every Saturday, and I got spotted through that dance class to audition for a show on the West End. I ended up doing the show. I loved it. Billy Elliot. It was the time of my life. It was such a cool experience. Just by complete fluke, an agent came to see the show the night that I was on. She signed me. She sent me to an audition for a film. I was lucky enough to get the part. All of a sudden, I was on set with Ewan McGregor and Naomi Watts, and we made The Impossible. And to be perfectly honest with you, it was just a hobby. It was something that my mum would let me do on the summer holidays. She was very keen that I kept my schooling up. And there sort of came that time in England where you're in between GCSEs and A-levels, and you're trying to figure out. When I was going through that, you could still drop out at A-levels. Obviously, now you have to do A-levels. And I had that moment where I was like, what do I want to do? I could try and stay at school and figure out what I want to do, or this thing that's been a hobby, but my sort of summer holiday activity, which is acting, I could try and do that for a living. And I've been so lucky that I've been, offered jobs and all that sort of stuff. I decided to go with it. I joined the Brit school because, my mum was keen that I didn't go for school for an education, but went to school to expand my social skills and meet kids my own age. All my friends when I was 15 were like 30-year-old people because they're all adults from the business.
Yeah.
So I think my mum was keen that I had some friends that are my age who are now my best friends today. So I never really wanted this. I just sort of never stopped doing it. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the creativity. I love the building blocks that are required to put a film together. I love the collaboration on set between people from all different walks of life. A film set is a melting pot of all sorts of different people. So I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Wow. And I read something that you said you were bullied for like doing ballet.
Yeah, right.
Early, which obviously got you into playing the role of Billy Elliot, because it's ballet and tap, right?
Sure.
It's both. So was that tough at the time, or like were you trying to hide it and then you end up on, you end up at the West End and you're on the main stage and everyone's seeing it, or was it kind of easy to navigate, and how did that go down? Because I feel like as a kid doing ballet and tap must have been a little challenging.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't easy, but it also wasn't tough.
Right.
I went to a rugby school, so you can imagine like the one kid in the school that does ballet. There's going to be comments here and there. It wasn't the easiest thing in the world. There were kids that didn't understand why I was doing it or what I was doing it for. No matter how many times I explained, like, I'm the only guy in a class of 30 girls in tights. I was like, guys, this is what you want to be doing. Like, rugby is not it. But it was tough. But again, like, it goes back to what we were saying about resilience and keeping your head down. And Crowded Room was the hardest job I've ever had for all sorts of different reasons. And there was a point in time where we were talking about, do we shut this down and walk away from it because of how challenging it was? And, I dug my heels in, I put my head down and was like, no, I'm going to finish this. I'm going to see it through. And I think, you learn from past experiences like that. So I really am proud of the way everyone handled the crowded room. And I think that stems from my childhood, my dad's experiences, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned recently was that you gave up drinking about a year and a half ago.
Yes.
And you said it was the hardest thing you ever did.
Yes.
And I wanted to know, what was so hard about it for you? Why was it so hard?
It's interesting. I didn't one day wake up and say, I'm giving up drinking. I just, like many Brits, had a very, very boozy December. Christmas time, I was on vacation, I was drinking a lot. And I've always been able to drink a lot. I think I get my genes from my mum's side in that thing. Like I can drink. And I decided to just give up for January. I just wanted to do dry January. And all I could think about was having a drink. It's all I could think about. I was waking up thinking about it. I was checking the clock. When's it 12? And it just really scared me. I just was like, wow, maybe I have a little bit of an alcohol thing. So I sort of decided to punish myself and say, I'll do February as well. I'll do 2 months off. If I can do 2 months off, then I can prove to myself that I don't have a problem. 2 months go by and I was still really struggling. I felt like I couldn't be social. I felt like I couldn't go to the pub and have a lime soda. I couldn't go out for dinner. I was really, really struggling. And I started to really worry that maybe I had an alcohol problem. So I decided that I would wait until my birthday, which is June 1st. I said to myself, if I can do 6 months without alcohol, then I can prove to myself that I don't have a problem. And by the time I had got to June 1st, I was the happiest I've ever been in my life. I could sleep better. I could handle problems better. Things that would go wrong on set that would normally set me off, I could take in my stride. I had such better mental clarity. I felt healthier. I felt fitter. And I just sort of said to myself, like, why am I enslaved to this drink? Why am I so obsessed by the idea of having this drink? And I would look back and recognize that I would go to events for work and be like, I can't enjoy myself until I've had a few beers. And I just felt so much pressure. And this is one of the things why I've sort of distanced myself from the rugby community, because so much of it is about how much can you drink? Let's get you as drunk as possible. And it's honestly been the best thing I've ever done. I'm a year and a half into it now. It doesn't even cross my mind. I've found amazing replacements that I think are fantastic. Ones that are also really healthy. I found this one beer that it's full of electrolytes and it's, you know, the carbohydrates in it are long-lasting energy. So like having a beer is now actually like a really healthy thing. I'm really lucky that all my friends are super supportive about it. I've never run into that scenario where my friends are like, oh, go on, just have a beer. Like, you're fine. They've always sort of really supported me. And I don't want to be that person that's saying to people, you should get sober, you should get sober. If I could encourage someone to drink less, then that's great. But I don't want to start getting into the world of you need to stop drinking, because it's not for me to say. I went on my own little journey. I'm really enjoying it. I'm delighted that my mum's has also given up. She's loving it. And it's been amazing. I can't believe the difference that I feel from not drinking. Yeah. I feel amazing.
Yeah. For anyone who is listening right now and is going, Tom, I love that for you. I want to do it too. Like, they're listening going, I'm having too much every day. I can notice some of those things, but I'm just stuck. And it's hard because we know that addiction's that way. We know that this is heavy. It's not easy. But if someone is watching going, Tom, tell me, like, what did you do to even get started? How did you have that courage to say, I'm going to do January, I'm going to stick at it? Were there any moments where you actually fell back and then had to get back on the horse again? Like, just walk us through that a little bit more for anyone who is watching going, Tom, mate, I want to be in your position in like 6 months.
I didn't fall back on it. I have done in the past. Like, I've had periods of my life where I'd given up drinking and then gone back to drinking. But this time, I don't know, it was just different. I really worked to sort of change my mindset. I really asked myself, like, why do you drink? Why are you drinking? And a lot of the time, my answer would be to feel more comfortable in the social environment. Yeah. And I just put myself in those environments and just would force myself to be there. I'd force myself to hang out and go to a club or go to a bar, go to a dinner.
Yeah,
and
so you weren't avoiding those places.
I was at the beginning because I didn't feel like I could go and not have a drink because of the stress of it. But then after a while, I sort of was like, mate, you've got to pull your socks up here and you can't just live in your house all the time. You've got to go out and enjoy yourself. And if you're only enjoying yourself because you're drinking, then you really do have a problem. But I just changed my mindset. I found really good replacements, things that I could sort of attribute to having a beer. I often found with me, most of it is just the ritual of cracking something open and sharing it with friends and drinking it. Whether it's sparkling water or a beer, I don't associate, like, I don't see a difference.
Yeah.
But I think it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
I had a great support system. Jack is one of my best mates and we travel all over the world. He doesn't drink, and doing it with him was a really helpful experience for me. My brother is always on the road with me. He was very supportive. And yeah, I just really set my mind to it. I was like, I really want to do this. I want to prove to myself I can do it.
Yeah.
And then once I'd felt the health benefits and started really feeling like my full self, I was like, oh my God, this is the best. I honestly cannot believe like the amount of times I've sat down with an actor that I've really admired, or sat down with a producer or a director and been like, oh, you know, well, I don't drink anymore. And they go, oh, I don't drink, 10 years. And you're like, oh my God. And I've had so many insightful conversations with people like yourself where you've heard their story, their reason for giving up. And there is a wonderful community of people. And I love it. I love being a part of that community. I'm really proud to be a part of it. I hope that, you know, I can meet other people and chat to them about it, because it's really nice. It's lovely to be like, let's go get a lime soda together, you know?
We ask everyone the final 5. And so these are the fast 5 questions.
Okay.
Which means answers have to be 1 word to 1 sentence maximum.
Okay.
No more than that.
Done.
Okay. And you don't have to write or spell them out. So no problems.
That'd be a long
so
segment.
None of that. All right. So Tom Holland, these are your final 5. Question 1, what is the best advice you've ever received?
To turn your nerves into excitement.
I like that. We've never had that on the show. I love that. All right. Second question, what is the worst advice you've ever received?
Move to LA, get a marijuana license and buy a hot tub.
Who told you that?
Mark Wahlberg.
That's brilliant.
No, he told me that on a chat show, so I don't know if that was legit advice, but I didn't take his advice.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, who would you have been if you took that advice?
Who knows?
Yeah,
who knows?
All right, question number 3. What's the first thing you do every morning and the last thing you do every night?
Make my bed. It's the first thing I do. And the last thing I do before I go to bed, admittedly, is I check my emails, which I shouldn't do. But that is what I do. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, we asked that just to make you aware of what you need to change.
I do need to change that. Making my bed is a good start. I used to never do that. And now, like, my first thing I do is I make my bed. That's like my first challenge of the day. It's an easy one to get done.
Question 4, what's something you're trying to learn at the moment?
I'm currently taking golf lessons. And
we see a trend here.
it's not going very well.
Where are you at the moment?
Thing is with golf is that the golf swing is a very, very particular thing. So in order to get better, you do have to take quite a few steps backwards. I've taken maybe 25 steps backwards, but I will benefit from it eventually.
5th and final question. If you could create one law that everyone else in the world had to follow, what would it be?
I don't know. I don't know what one law would solve the most amount of problems. What would you say? Curious.
I'd probably go to something you said earlier. If I'm giving a genuine answer, real answer, is I really wish there was a life school.
Oh, mate.
Like I that would be it, because I'm not saying that would solve all the problems in the world.
No.
But it would set people up. And when I say life school, I mean emotional mastery. I mean
100%.
ego mastery. I mean the ability to be kind and empathetic and vulnerable and compassionate and create safe spaces. I think a life school that taught you how to be non-judgmental and non-critical of others without understanding them. I think that's what I mean by life school. So not just the like paying taxes and bills and stuff, but the life school of like, well, what if we didn't have to live in a world where we just said everything we wanted to and did everything 100%. We wanted to and got away with it, and you know.
But I think the life lesson for me should be basic health and CPR and basic first aid training. It should be, like you said, creating an environment at school where young people feel more comfortable talking about themselves, what they're going through, you know, things that might be happening at home or things that are happening at school. Like, I think that would be an amazing way for us to be more expressive and more comfortable expressing. And again, like, I know I keep going back to it, but it's about what my show is about, which is you should feel empowered when asking for help. It should be something that you're proud of. Like, you're recognizing that you have an issue. It might be an internal issue. It might be an external issue, but you are seeking help, which I think is very admirable.
Yeah, I think it's like, you know, when surfers talk about when they crash or get hit by a big wave, the worst thing you can do is like tense up. You just have to kind of roll with the punches and like let it happen. I always find that if I go out in public and I try and resist the request for photos, I end up having a worse day. So if I just sort of go, you know, it's part of the job, lucky to be doing it, happy to take the pictures, I always have a better day. And I think that for me is just an example of like rolling with the punches rather than trying to fight back. It's like swimming upstream. Like you're never going to be able to convince everyone to be nice about it and to say please or whatever it is you're looking for. But yeah, it's just part of the job, I guess.
Yeah.
I was really lucky that like my life changed slowly. Like I started when I was really young, and then I had about 10 years before the Spider-Man thing happened. The Spider-Man of it all was that was the big turning point of where like everything changed. And I was lucky that I had those formative years to sort of grow up, make mistakes, learn about set life, learn about the world of movie making, and then Spider-Man happened. But it definitely was a steep learning curve for sure. But yeah, I like living with Harry and Harrison is great because they are so productive. And the thing with acting that I've always found quite difficult is that it's either 100% or nothing. So like if you're on set, you're working flat out, you're exhausted. And if you're not working, you really don't have anything to do.
Yeah, the only time that you get to practice your craft is when you're on set and getting paid to do it.
Right. Like I'm not at home saying to Harrison, like, do you want to jump up and just run some lines quickly? You don't do that. I mean, I'm sure some people do. So what's been really nice working with them and working on this bureau stuff is having stuff to do outside of the acting world that keeps my mind engaged and gives me a reason to be getting up and working and getting that training session in early in the morning. Because otherwise I just become really lazy.
Yeah.
And I play golf too much. You know, I'll call him up and he'll be driving back from a gig and he'll be telling me about he had a rough gig or something. And I've always just really admired his ability to shake that off. And I think as a younger actor, I learned a lot from him when I would go for auditions that I really wanted and not got the gig.
Right.
And he would sort of, you know, son, you can't do all the jobs.
Yeah. Having a healthy relationship with rejection in a business where rejection is the norm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That for me has been such a valuable lesson I've learned from him. Only recently did I find my yearbook from my primary school. And I've always had this kind of narrative that I never wanted to be an actor. I love performing.
I heard you say that.
I love being on stage. I loved dancing. But acting was never something I wanted to do.
I have a hard time believing that. I want to press you on that a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm happy to get into it because I found this book which predates any acting that I had done. So I basically used to go to this dance school. We did a show every year at the Royal Ballet School, and the headmaster asked me to audition for Billy Elliot on the West End. Long story short, I went through the audition process. They sent trainers to my school, which was really tough because it was a rugby school, and all of a sudden, like, I was the one boy in the all-boys school doing ballet in the gym at lunch. And that came with its own set of challenges. But I got the part, and it wasn't until I sort of got through Billy Elliot, I'd been cast in The Impossible, and I was working on set with Naomi, that I really started to think like, oh, I could be like an actor. Like, this is what I could do. But in this yearbook, I must be like 6 or 7 when I answered these questions. And the questions are like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite food that gets served in the canteen? It's like kids' questions. And I wrote, what do you want to be when you grow up? I wrote actor. Which I think is really weird because I don't remember ever wanting to be an actor. But clearly I did. And I think I've always been very driven. And if you put the work in front of me, I'm really good at getting it done. I'm not very good at putting the work in front of me myself. I need someone to help me do that. Whereas my brother Harry or Harrison, with what he's done with Hammer, like the way he's built his little company and driven it from the ground up, and he gets up and does it every day is amazing. I couldn't do that.
You're a team player.
I'm like, tell me what you need me to do and I'll do it. But don't ask me to like come up with the strategy to do it. Yeah, I remember my dad had a talk with me and sat me down. I was auditioning for this film called November Criminals. I would have been maybe 15 or something.
Sure. And Sasha Gervasi.
Yes.
Who's a buddy of mine. I was with him yesterday.
I really wanted that job. I thought it was a really fun script. I really liked the character. There was loads of dialogue, which I really liked. With The Impossible, it was more of a like reactionary performance. I didn't really have much to say. So I really, really wanted this job. And I remember being in my mum and dad's old kitchen, and I might have thrown something on the floor out of frustration because I'd found out I hadn't got it. And my dad really put me in check. Like, you're a kid. This is the first audition you've gone for that you didn't get. Get over yourself.
Right.
I was actually very disappointed with how the press ran with it. But then, like I said earlier, you can't fight with the press. You're swimming upstream. And I kind of just rolled with the punches and let it happen. I think it's really disappointing that a young person in my decision who's lucky enough to have the power to say, I'm going to take some time off for myself, gets painted as, you know, something negative. I think we all work too hard and we should put our lives first. I've always lived by the idea that I work to live. I don't live to work. And I think that it's really unfortunate that that's what people took from the idea of me taking a break. Yeah, and you know, I think it's very different, and it's very obvious to see how someone like Simone Biles would be affected by mental health. The pressure that she's under to perform at the level that she performs at. She's absolutely incredible. We sat down and watched her this year, and I can totally see how that pressure would get to anyone. You know, pressure is only natural, and pressure is a privilege to a certain degree, but sometimes too much pressure is too much pressure. And I think mental health, you know, I took a break from social media once and felt the need to kind of announce it because I didn't want people to worry that, you know, I had disappeared or something. I don't know. And that also was met with a negative reaction of like, oh, you can't hack it. Like, you can't handle social media. And I just think that sometimes it's important to look up and engage with what's around you. And I find for me with social media, I can easily sit on the couch for 4 hours and scroll. And I haven't had Instagram on my phone. I'll download it to post something, or download it if a friend of mine's posts something and I want to like it for them. But 99% of the time, I don't have it on my phone. And my life is so much better for not being completely glued to this false world that we have on our phones.
Yeah.
But it's a shame, and I really hope it changes, because I think self-preservation is so important, and only a fool would say to you, you should work until you crack. Because if you crack, it's going to take you longer to get back to full fitness and work at your top capacity. So for me, like, taking these strategic little breaks where you can rest and recoup and come back your best self is really important, and something that should be heralded rather than chastised.
Sure. Or maybe a fear response, like I have to always be booking because maybe the phone's not going to call. That comes from an insecurity or a place of fear. But having like a healthy, strong sense of yourself and knowing like, hey, you know, I bring something to the table. It's not going to disappear if I take a minute off. Like, I'm thinking of like a great example would be like, if you're great, there's always going to be a demand, right? Look at Oasis. How long it's been? 25 years or whatever. And like they're going to make $400 million because finally they got their shit together. And then there's a kind of a hustle porn culture out there where it is frowned upon if you take a minute, take a beat to like reassess and reboot the operating system. So the next time out, you can give the best of what you have.
100%. I don't operate well or as well as I would when I'm tired. If I don't sleep well, or this is the thing I struggle with the most is sleep when I'm working. So for me to be able to have some time to recoup and come to set or come to work or whatever I'm doing 100%, it makes a world of a difference. Yeah, it's definitely like the birthplace of my career. And it's been so long since I'd done it that it felt like the first time. And it was an amazing experience. You know, I wasn't planning on doing theatre. I just kind of I was at home. I had taken my year off. There's obviously been a whole load of things that have happened in our industry that kind of put a pause on a bunch of things. And I was like itching to find something to do. I've always been really scared of going back on stage because it's just feels so exposing.
Yeah, nowhere to hide.
There's nowhere to hide, and
it's different from mocap.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, when you can change something or say, look, could you just move my arm a little bit further out? And I think that's what really excites me. Like when something stresses me out, I was chatting to my friend yesterday about this actually. I work really well when I don't think about whether or not I should do it or not. Like with the play, they called me up and they said, look, if you want to do this, you need to let us know today because we got to book the theatre. And we'd been speaking about doing this for maybe 5 days. hadn't spoken to my family about it. I hadn't really spoken to my girlfriend about it. And on the phone, I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. I'm happy to do it. And then I started to panic because I was like, what have I done? Like, why am I doing this? But when I put myself under that kind of pressure, that's when I do my best work. When I start feeling really uncomfortable, because that level of uncomfortableness drives me to do the work and be focused and learn my lines and break it down and understand the language and try and do something different and unique to what's been done before. But I loved it. I really loved it.
How do you make decisions about the projects that you want to get involved with? I'm saying that thinking about, somebody who's, steeped in the MCU.
Yeah.
And with that, there's expectations and pressures and a certain kind of preset trajectory for an actor of your stature. But when I look at the choices that you've made, you're making all kinds of, interesting, different choices that are challenging you, and some of them work out and some of them don't. But it all feels like an experiment and you trying to find new ways to express yourself.
I think that's perfectly put. It's an experiment. And I try not to think about what will this do for my career? Is this an awards piece, or is this a box office bonus movie? Is it something I'd like to watch? Is really my biggest indicator as to whether I would do it or not. And I just love being challenged. My favorite thing about my job is that I get to try new things and sort of live in different skins every now and then and become these different characters. And I just love the idea of being told, right, you're going to Nebraska for 4 months to shoot a movie. I'm like, okay, great. I would never go there normally. So it'd be great to go and spend some time somewhere. So I love everything that comes with it. And it's less for me about, is this going to be good for my career? And more just, am I going to enjoy making this? And I think what my dad took from that lesson, which he passed on to me, was whether it's 100,000 people or 5 people in the audience, your best is a minimum. You can't half-ass anything. You can't mark through anything. And I think I've taken that on board quite heavily. I've always given everything 100%. I remember that all the time, my dad telling me that story about, I've never met Lee, and I know that they were really close when they were younger. But that story always really stuck with me.
Yeah, it's cool. The little things are the big things.
Yeah, they make a difference.
Yeah.
And those little tiny details, like Jake was talking about with makeup, those tiny attention to details can really be a make or break in building a convincing character.
But even if no one notices, you notice.
You notice,
for your own relationship with what you do.
Nothing brings me more pride than sitting in a theater, watching something I've been a part of, and seeing an idea I had come to life. Nothing makes me more happy.
That's got to be a crazy experience.
Especially when it comes to something like a Spider-Man movie where had I not been in them, I'd be sat here watching them because I love them.
Right.
To be given the grace and opportunity to kind of be involved in the creative of those films is one of the coolest things I've ever experienced. Well, it's that knife edge, isn't it? It's that fine balance of, even though in that interview I said I want to be Spider-Man in the future, I didn't just sit back and relax and then it happened. There's manifesting, but there's also work that goes into it. So it's that fine balance of, is it the universe that's making it happen, or is it something that you're making happen yourself? And I honestly think it's probably a little bit of both. I'm a very confident person, but I'm more confident when I'm pretending to be someone else, because the ramifications of your actions aren't real because you're pretending. So I would get really uncomfortable and not confident in social scenarios out in public. And I think
when you're just being you,
when I'm just being myself. And I think that's why I really latched onto drinking, because it masked that insecurity with stupidity, I guess, a little bit. That's why I've always had a really hard time with campaigns. I did a Prada campaign, which I loved, and I loved working with them. They were great. But I had a really hard time seeing me on a billboard sell something, because it was me, Tom Holland, not as a character. So I think that's kind of why I latched onto it so much. And through perseverance and kind of gritted teeth and FOMO of not wanting to miss out, I would force myself to go to bars and go to pubs and enjoy the beer garden for the football. And when I realized that alcohol wasn't masking my insecurity or bringing out my best self. It was actually doing the opposite. I then started to feel this freedom of like, oh, I can just be myself and I have nothing to be insecure about. That's when it started to get easier. And I started to really feel the benefit of not being kind of tied to this drink. I used to remember going to parties in LA because at the beginning, you know, as a young kid, you try to fit into the LA world. And now that I've grown up a little bit and I know that it isn't my place to be, I don't try as hard to like go out to the LA parties and mix with celebrities that I don't know. But I used to go to these parties and be like, I can't speak to someone until I'm drunk. Like, I've got to get this going. And now that I've kicked that and I found replacements that make me feel like I'm a part of the process without sacrificing my morning, my afternoon, my next few days, has been so liberating.